Welcome back to how to set up SCCM current branch. This is part 2, hardware requirements explained. The hardware requirements of SCCM at first glance can be hard to get your head around, so I'm going to do my best to simplify things down as much as possible. And this will be to cover the most common configuration, which is a single site server with SQL co-located. And we'll also first, although it's not a hardware requirement, we'll also cover the requirements for the server that SCCM is going to run on. So that will be, you'll need a 64-bit server operating system, which is Server 2012 or later. You'll need the desktop experience installed. You can't install this on a core server. You'll need all Windows updates and a static IP address. For the CPU requirements, Microsoft's website only shows the requirements for the maximum number of clients for this configuration, which is 175,000, and it lists 16 CPU cores for SCCM and SQL co-located. So let's go ahead and dive into that. So you see here, standalone primary site server with a database site role on the same server. It wants 16 CPU cores. However, as that is for the maximum, we can actually reduce that. In the SCCM environment for my current workplace, we are managing around 3,000 clients, and we currently have 6 CPU cores on the server, and that's running quite well. So you can probably use that as a bit of a benchmark. For the memory requirements, again, Microsoft site only lists the requirements for the maximum number of clients for this configuration, which is 175,000, and that requires 96 gig of RAM for SCCM and SQL co-located. If you weren't going to use the SQL co-located, you could get away with 16 gig of memory. However, with a co-located system on the SCCM that I currently manage with 3,000 clients, we're using 24 gig of RAM, and that's not struggling at all. So again, use that as a benchmark. Microsoft do recommend RAID 10 configuration for all data drives. That's striped with mirroring and requires 4 drives. So essentially, each disk, half of the data is stored on each drive, and then that data is mirrored to another drive for each one. For the storage requirements, we're going to need a minimum of 32 gigabytes for the operating system drive, although it would be best to consult the minimum requirements for your operating system. For the SCCM drive, we're going to need 50 gigabytes for every 25,000 clients, starting at a minimum of 25 gig, even if you've got only a small amount of clients. For the SQL master database file drive, you're going to need 75 gig for every 25,000 clients. However, you can get away with using much less than that. That works out to about 2 megabytes per client, but I'd recommend starting with a minimum of a 5 gig drive. And that's the same for the SQL log database file, but that's a minimum of 25 gig for every 25,000 clients. Again, probably just start with 5 gig for that. For the SQL temp file, Microsoft just say as needed. I'd recommend starting with 5 gig just so there's plenty of space for that, so it doesn't get full. If you're hosting WSUS on the same server, start with a minimum of 20 gigabytes of storage for that drive, with 30 gigabyte recommended. You're also going to need to create a database folder on the SQL master database file, SQL log database file, and the SQL temp drives. And you're also going to need to create a no SMS on drive.sms file on each drive, except the SCCM drive, which stops SCCM copying any content library files to these drives. And I'll show you how to create that just in case you need to know. On my virtual machine, I'm going to open up Notepad. Simply go to File and Save As. Save the file as no_sms_on_drive.sms. Change the save as type to all files. And I'm going to save this on the E drive. From there, I'm going to copy the file I've just created onto all of the other drives except for the D drive, which is my SCCM. and we're done. The networking's easy. You just need a 1 gigabit per second Ethernet adapter. For the Configuration Manager console, that's the program you're going to use on your admin PCs to manage SCCM. You're going to need an Intel i3 comparable CPU, at least 2 gig of RAM, at least 2 gig of free disk space, and a minimum resolution of 1024 by 768. And for the client PCs, you're going to need 500 megabytes free storage for the client itself, and 5 gig free storage recommended for the cache. This is where SCCM downloads any applications, configuration files, or operating systems. And that should do it. So if there are any questions, if there's anything you feel like I've left out, please leave a comment and let me know, and I'll do my best to address that. The next guide will be creating the system management container using ADZ Edit, and I'll see you next time.